All right, let's get started. I'm going to jump over to my Finder and I'm going to pull some audio into this project. Now, I'm going to use a real life project, something that I'm actually working on for a client, and I'm just going to pull everything right into my Final Cut project here. And then I'm going to go and pick out the videos that I need. Now, I've converted 3 videos to ProRes. This was a project that was filmed on the Canon 7D. I converted these with MPEG Streamclip, and I'm going to drag these into Final Cut as well. All right, so we have 3 videos and 7 audios. Now I'm going to give you guys some guidelines. The most important thing to know when you're recording audio separately is to record it at 48 kilohertz. You're not going to have good results if you record it at 44.1, which is the normal for CD audio. And there is programs that can convert from one sample rate to another. So if you make a mistake, no big deal, you just got to work around it. But in order to sync with video and have it stay in sync and not deal with audio drift, you want to record at 48 kilohertz. The second thing is to record the same number of video tracks as audio tracks. That will help you when you go into post. It'll make things easy. The third thing is to have the recording durations be similar on your audio and your video. 10 seconds off or 20 seconds off is fine, and I'm going to show you why. So I'm looking at these 3 clips. We have a duration of 9:52, we have a duration of 7:01, and we have a duration of 7:26. That's minutes and that's seconds. I'm reading the second and third column, the middle 2 columns here. Now I can tell that this 15-minute audio is actually part of a different project. This next one, by the way, I just cut that out. This next one is 9:56. Looks like it's going to line up well with this other video, with this video here. The next one is 7:06. It's going to line up with this one. This 50-second one might have been a test. This 3-minute one might have been a false start or a test. I'm not really sure. This last one, I didn't convert that last clip to ProRes yet. So we're just going to be dealing with these 3 clips, these 3 video clips, and these 3 audio clips. I'm going to use a little technique where, within the browser Final Cut, you can select a whole bunch of audios and videos and drag them all to the timeline at the same time. And click over to my timeline, use Shift-Z. That zooms my timeline to all of the clips here. I'll delete this space over here. And then I'm going to take these 3 audios, drag them right down here, and now I'm going to hit Shift-Z again. Okay, so you can see I already have some audio waveforms here. This little box down here is the track height. I'm going to change the track height to the minimum for everything, and everything gets squashed down. I'm going to go up to my sequence, click on settings. Keyboard shortcut for that is Command-0. And I'm going to click on timeline options, and you want to turn your audio waveforms on. Now, you can see my audio waveforms are already on. I hit OK, and I'm still not seeing anything. That's because the minimum track height will not show audio waveforms. And I can drag these tracks out individually and see the ones that I only want to see. Now you see these X's, that means the computer is loading all these thumbnail files that Final Cut uses for the audio waveforms. And just so you know, if you're editing on a laptop or an older machine, that process was really going to bog down your machine a lot. So you just want to wait till it's finished, or just work with 1 track at a time. Let's jump right in. I'm going to show you a bunch of different ways to sync this stuff. This clip was recorded with a Canon 7D. The audio on this clip is straight off the camera. I don't have a shotgun mic or anything like that plugged into it. Let's listen to it. One of the ways I can listen to it is turning off the other tracks, leaving these tracks on, see what we got.
Whether they can put their finger on it or not, they feel us coming.
Pretty noisy, good enough for reference audio. Then I'm going to listen to this other track that was recorded on a Zoom recorder.
Or not, they feel us coming from that.
Well, that's pretty good, but
superior position.
So I'm going to sync up this first clip, and just so we don't have problems, I'm going to make a little space in between each of these clips. Now, each of these clips are, 7 to 10 minutes long. I'm moving around by clicking in the top of my timeline here. You can actually drag to scrub. But I'm also going to zoom in using a Command+. That's the best way to get around the timeline for me. Some of you guys might use this little bar down here, which scrolls and zooms. I prefer using keyboard shortcuts and mainly just clicking up in this bar as well. So I'm going to hit Command+, I need to open up one track from each of the audio sources. I can also just choose a track height for all of my tracks. That affects the video as well. Put everything on medium, and then I'm going to open up these middle two a lot so I can see them better. So now we have a nice view of them. You can already start to see that this audio form right here, audio waveform, and this one look the same. So I'm just going to go ahead, and this is something you should know about called linked selection. Turn my linked selection on so that when I click on the video, the audio goes with it. I'm going to start to drag to the right. That little flag on the screen that says 306 means I'm moving 3 seconds and 6 frames to the right. Well, that was pretty darn close. I'm going to click up here. I'm going to use one of my common keyboard shortcuts, Command-Shift-A. That's the opposite of Command-A. Command-A is Select All, Command-Shift-A, Deselect. I'm going to zoom in with Command-Plus. Now, I'm zooming way in, and I'm finding that I'm really close here. Probably only 1 or 2 frames off. So at this point, I'm going to drag to the right, and because I'm zoomed way in, I can move 1 frame at a time. This little gray flag is the width of one of your frames. And this is as far as it will zoom in. Now, at this level of zoom, it's not necessarily that easy to interpret what's going on. Now, normally you would need a clap or something to line up. Now, you see this right here? This is a single word or a sound, and it's off. It's off by half a frame. Now, you can't solve that unless you go up to the viewer and start editing at a sub-frame level. You can only do this with audio. I'm going to show you how to do this. This is the more advanced way to sync. Just so you guys know, if I was doing a web clip, I would actually consider this in sync at a certain point, because a half a frame off, you're not going to be able to tell. At least not visually, not for a web clip. But we're going to go the extra mile and make it as close as we can. This track down here, I'm going to double click it, and it's going to end up in my viewer. This little timeline works the same as my main timeline, so I can use the same keyboard shortcuts. When I hit Command Plus, it's going to zoom in on the timeline in my viewer because my viewer is selected. I can drag around. You're going to see some colorations here that has to do with the screencast. And I'm going to zoom in to this little area, this little tiny audio. What I'm going to do is actually hold down my Shift key and start to drag this frame by frame. And I'm going to approximately change it by half a frame. And the way I'm going to do that is use the I key. I'm going to hit the I key, which is going to set my in point. It'll set my in point down on my timeline here. And I actually ended up 1 frame off, so I'll drag this 1 frame to the right. And now we're really close. So that's what I would call sync. This is maybe a 1/16 of a frame off. Now we could use trial and error and try to get, remember you got to hold down the Shift key when you're up here. And you're going to hit the I key to change your in point. Now that's just about as close as you can come. These two little things, but these aren't a significant part of my audio or anything. They're not a clap. But I know if I go over here and I play this audio.
Let's talk about making the shift from the positionary mind of the past.
Now that's my bad audio and my good audio together at the same time. And the reason I do that is if you hear any echo, what you're doing is you're checking the visual. So we sync things up visually, but how does it sound? If we listen to the audio sources together and there's no echo, that means we're good to go. Let's move on to the next clip. I'm going to turn off this and...
Let's talk about making the shift from the positionary mind of the past to the visionary mind of the future.
So this guy, Michael Sky, is talking about the visionary mind of the future. Some really cool new age stuff. Let's move on to the next clip. I'm going to zoom in and out and navigate my timeline using the up and down arrows to move through edit points. And I'm going to place my playhead in a place where I can tell what's going on with the audio waveform, and I'm going to start to zoom in. And I'm going to use a slightly different method here, but I want to show you the echo first. Listen.
In the past, we can see that our power comes.
Obviously that's out of sync, and that's what you're listening for. You can actually hear that if it's 1 frame off. if it's 2 frames off, you can hear that, a very slight echo if you're listening to both audio waveforms. So I'm going to click on this video. Actually, I'm going to click on the audio this time and hit -20. What that is going to do is move the audio 20 frames to the left, and then I'm going to do it again, and then I'm going to move it 40 frames to the left. Now this is just a frame-accurate way to move things around as opposed to dragging things. When you're dragging things, it really depends on what zoom level you're at as far as how much you're going to drag it. So I zoomed in probably about 4 levels, and you can see I'm pretty close. I'm going to select the audio again and hit -4 frames. Now I'm going to hit -8 frames, -8 frames, 2 more times, and now we're getting real close. So I'm going to zoom in once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. So what do you think? I would want to match this little waveform up right here to this waveform up right here. That's pretty darn close. In this one, if it was a web clip, I wouldn't even go further than that and try to do a subframe edit. So let's move on to the third clip. So basically, we're moving the audio or video left or right. Make sure it's in sync. And let's move on to the third clip. This last method that I'm going to use for syncing is slightly more exacting. And you can see I got pretty good results. I'm using a lav mic for this source. This is the 7D. I'm using a fairly wide angle, 28mm prime. So the 7D is probably about 3 to 4 feet away from my client's face. So picks up nice reference audio like that, even outside. We're having an easy time with this project because we can see that the audio waveforms line up. If I look at this section right here versus this section right here, I automatically see that they're going to line up. Now, if you have 2 audio waveforms that don't look like each other because the 2 microphones were in completely different places in the room, or you're dealing with a reference audio that's distorted or something like that, you may need to use this last method. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move my playhead left and right with the arrow keys until I see the peak on my audio levels monitor right here. That's the peak. So I'm going to select the video, hit M, right? Now, keep in mind there's 2 different types of markers in Final Cut. If I hit M now, it's going to mark the timeline. So we'll leave that marker there, but we want to mark the clips. I'm going to zoom back out. Keep in mind, both of my audios are on right now. So I'm going to just turn this one off briefly. I'm going to find the peak of this one. Strangely, it looks like the peak is more than 1 frame long. So the beginning of the peak is this frame right here. I'll mark that frame. Oops, I didn't do it right. You got to have the clip selected to mark that frame. If you want, by the way, if you want to delete a marker, hit M again and hit delete. So I'm going to zoom out until I can see both these markers a little further. And then I'm going to drag this marker in line with that one. I'm going to zoom in on this area right here and see how I did. Now, I think this is still about 1 frame off. That looks a lot closer to me. I just dragged I dragged the audio 1 frame to the right. So there you have it. That's the third method by using markers. Keep in mind, if you choose to do a clap either in front of the camera or just by making a sound, snapping your fingers, clapping your hands, that's going to make things easier. I've been doing this so long that I know that I can get really close sync without a clap. So keep in mind, sync, as we're talking about it in this, is as close as possible. It means less than 1 frame off. It's not the SMPTE timecode sync that you would get in a Hollywood picture or a professional television cameras or anything like that. But for those of you who don't want to spend $140 to buy a filter that does this for you, a plugin that does this for you, you can do it, learn how to do it, teach yourself. All right, enjoy.